That's bad.
All right, today we're going to talk about turbo kits and the material you should use. So in general, there's a couple different materials you're going to use. Either you're going to use mild steel like this, or you're going to want to get fancy and use stainless. Now, which one should you use? I'm just going to cut to the chase right now. It's really going to come down to what your goals are with the vehicle and your preference, which is probably going to trump everything else. I mean, you could be building like a 15-second daily driver that you don't want to service ever, but if you want stainless, you're going to build it out of stainless, you know what I mean? So let's talk about the pros and cons of each one. We'll start with the mild steel. The pros of mild steel: it's cheap, it's easy to work with, and it's very readily available. Now, some of the cons to that are it's a little bit heavier and it's a little bit uglier. I mean, it doesn't have to be uglier, but 9 times out of 11, you're going to be MIG welding it. Is a little less visually appealing than TIG welding it. Speaking of TIG welding, talk about stainless. Some of the pros of that are it looks great, it's lighter, and it looks really great. But some of the cons are it costs more, it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to deal with. You need a TIG welder to, well, you don't need a TIG welder, but you should use a TIG welder. I have MIG welded stainless. You can get by. You should be TIG welding it. So why would you want to use one over the other? Well, if you're real concerned about weight, you'll probably want stainless. If you're not really feeling like the upkeep, or you're not real concerned about weight, mild is fine. Mild is, to me, a lot more durable. It's less prone to cracking like stainless is. And a couple people I know that have been way faster than I'll probably ever be are of the mindset that stainless just isn't worth the extra money. It isn't worth the headache. It isn't worth dealing with the cracking issues. Mild, a little bit heavier. I wouldn't say it's substantially heavier. MIG welding some mild. You don't often have to brace the turbo. You still should. It's just good practice too. I have never braced a turbo. Like this one's probably not going to get braced. This is a relatively light, just T4 7875 though. But this thing's basically just tacked together and it's strong as hell. The 85 mil T6 in jack, that's not braced. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to, like I said earlier, your goals for the car and your preferences. If you're building something that you're really concerned with the weight, then yeah, you're probably going to want stainless. If it's like a race car or something you're going to be servicing relatively regularly, maybe those cracks aren't a big deal to you. But you know, if it cracks like in the middle of a race or something, in between rounds, that's a pain in the ass. Also, one of the cons of stainless is that it is more expensive. Just the materials cost, something like this out of stainless would have been, well, like 150 bucks, give or take. 290s, a 180, and a 45 out of 2.5 inch. And then, like I said, to properly weld stainless, one, you need a TIG welder. Those aren't cheap for a good one. They start at like 1,000, 1,100 bucks. With mild steel, I built, probably like 7 or 8 turbo kits with a little $200 Harbor Freight welder, and it did fine until I upgraded to that one. No noticeable difference there. And then another thing with stainless, you need to be really good at fitment. You need those gaps real tight. There's a pretty big like 1/8 inch gap there. You would not really be happy with that with stainless. With MIG welding and mild, you can just fill that, not think twice about it. So the whole point of this video is I've had a couple people ask me why the Mustang and the 55's turbo kits are mild steel instead of stainless. And basically what it comes down to at the end of the day is like bang for your buck, I guess. Neither of these are show cars, so I don't really care about opening the hood and wowing people with all the nice shiny parts. I want something that is reliable, works really good, and doesn't break the bank. Also, quick little interesting side note, I've built one really nice stainless kit for the RX-7 James Brown a few years ago. And I built one pretty nice stainless kit for Jack Black when we first turboed that, which worked out pretty well. But it was just kind of using what we had sort of deal, so it could have been better. I'd say the current kit on it is way nicer and way more efficient. I feel like I built a stainless kit for something else too. Anyway, and the fastest I've been is still with a really, really crappily built mild steel turbo kit for the RX-7. Like, wastegate placement was only on one bank at kind of a weird angle. It was a real like choke down T4 kit, and that still went 9.5 at 140, which is still the fastest I've been. So I find that pretty amusing. The stainless kit probably could have been faster, but I was having some boost control issues that were whatever. And then that was a cheap turbo that ended up coming apart and chewing up the crank. So that's fun. But interesting tidbit that the fastest I've been is with like a really, really poorly built turbo kit. In theory, something like this should be way better. It flows way better. It has better priority everywhere. It's better. It's more appropriately sized for everything. It's a better turbo. Also, while we're talking about turbo kits, these stock truck manifolds, the people who know already know this, but the people who don't think they're just like stock shitty truck manifolds. These things are very good. Like, these are very, very good. There's people, like, if you look at like the Boosted LSX forum and even the sloppy not forum but Facebook groups, there's people making well over 1,000 horsepower with these. There's one guy that said he made like 1,300 at the tire through these. So like, these are very good, and they fit so many different chassis. Now, they are a little ugly, so if you don't like that, I would suggest what I got for the 55. These are just some real cheap eBay swap manifolds. I don't know what the prices are now, but when I got them, they were like 98 bucks, and they fit really good. They're easy to weld, and they look pretty darn slick. I think the ports are a little bit bigger on these two, or maybe the casting is just that much thicker. So they can probably support a little bit more horsepower than the truck manifolds. But I mean, shit, if you're trying to make more than like 1,000 at the tire, then you're not watching my channel for advice on anything, because I'm just an idiot out here talking to a camera. But yeah, these truck manifolds are very good, and they're quite compact. So a couple things else to consider, especially if you're trying to build a cheap turbo kit. Turbo kits are great because you can do them really cheap. There's a lot of people that when they think of cheap, they think like they need all new everything. You don't. You can legit build a very cheap turbo kit. The truck manifolds, if you had to go out and buy them and for whatever reason you don't just have them, they're like, you can get them for 30 bucks, 30, 40 bucks. Maybe cheaper than that at a U-pull. You don't have to V-band them. You can use the stock 3-bolt flanges, MIG weld it with just a wastegate thing. You can have a complete turbo kit that'll make 8, 9, maybe even 1,000 at the tire for like a few $100. Obviously not including turbo because that's you dependent. But yeah, like hot side and shit, like 200 bucks. You can build a very good turbo kit. But anyway, that's probably going to do it for today's video. Take everything I say with a grain of salt because, like I said, I'm just an idiot in the garage yelling at a camera. But like I said, there was a couple people that wanted to know why I did mild instead of stainless, and all preference. That's really all it is. A little bit stronger, a lot a bit cheaper, easier to work with. A little bit heavier, but I don't think that's enough to really make a difference. Now, something like this out of stainless, because it's a relatively small crossover and everything, it would maybe save 5 pounds, which just isn't significant enough to me. But anyway, that's probably where we'll end the video here. I think I've rambled and wasted enough of your time. Just an old man shouting at cloud. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you for subscribing, clicking that bell to get the notifications. I'll see you next time.